What if the reason that's happening to you is because the language you're using is there to keep you stuck? And that's because of the way the brain works. We're wired for safety, and in wiring our brains for safety, we look for patterns, but not just any kind of pattern. We look for patterns of what is familiar. So if you've never approached your food and really learned, let's go back to the identity. If you've never learned what it's like to truly empower yourself, to put yourself first, that is going to feel so fucking uncomfortable.
Let's link up with Krysta on the FYX. She's a wellness coach with a focus on mental well-being and physical strength.
What's going on, FYX listeners? Welcome back to our latest episode of the FYX podcast. I'm your host, Krysta Huber, and I've got a quick one for you guys today because I am legitimately recording this episode right before I catch a train to one of my absolute best friend's weddings. And I'm so excited. Maybe we'll do a little part 2, depending on what comes out over the course of the next few minutes in this conversation of just reflecting on getting to be a part of her special day and being somebody who also listens to the show, so I know she'll hear this, has come into my life in a time where I was really shedding a lot of layers and shedding a lot of identities and becoming the highest, most conscious version of myself. And I'm just so grateful for the depth of our friendship in such a short period of time that I can't wait to share this special day with her. Because when I look back and think about friendships that I had 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago, I had no idea that in losing a lot of those relationships, what I would be calling in are friendships that are so much deeper and just transparently so much better. So in that, knowing that I get to share moments with these friends and be a part of their lives for these really, really important days just has such a deeper meaning to me. And I could get emotional thinking about this, but the key word in what I just said and what I want to tie into today's episode is around these concepts of identity and moving through different versions of you and how we really limit ourselves by the stories that we tell ourselves. This is relevant for me for a few different reasons. If you are on our email list, if you follow me on social media, you know I just celebrated a birthday. And I think like most people in celebrating a birthday, you get pretty reflective. You start thinking about I'm turning this age. For me, I always think about where I had expected my life to be. Like when I was 25, where would I be at 31? When I was 22, where was I expecting to be by the time I was in my 30s? And as anybody could agree with, it is totally not where I expected to be. But I am so happy to say it's even better. Like truly, I'm not saying that to be cheesy about it or say it to try to convince myself of something. I firmly believe that in my core, and I feel so embodied in making that statement. And I attribute that to the deep work I've done to shift my identity and to shift what is my reality. And I see this so much when it comes to why people are not able to lose weight and actually keep it off and then find themselves stuck on this hamster wheel. The second reason why this is relevant is because 2 weekends ago, by the time this episode comes out, it'll be going on almost 3. I was at a conference that through a mentor that I've been working with in the last few months who is fantastic. And I've just really enjoyed the experiences that I've been able to be a part of by getting inside of her community. If you want to go check her out, shout out to Steph with The Wealthy Practitioner. And what's been really cool about it for me is I've gotten to shift my perspective by being a part of a community that is predominantly of people who are not directly in my industry, still in the health and wellness space, but a lot of her main audience is chiropractors, and just being a fly on the wall with certain things, but also using that as a case study and a method to be able to grow not only the Fitness Fix, but also my marketing agency, The Clarity Collective, has just been amazing. And not just because I'm getting to see into the minds of another industry and how they may think or have blocks with social media, but and just not understanding the game of the online business and the perspective that I can bring to that, but for more personal reasons, in that the work that was facilitated at this conference in particular had everything to do with what I've poured into myself around self-development for the last like 18 months. And it was one of those moments where you just kind of sit there and you hear the conversations that are being had, and just highlighting the fact that, to give you like the brief overview, entrepreneurship really is such a test of you figuring out who you really are, and the holes in your business are directly correlated to the holes of like you as an individual and you as a person, the stories that you've continued to tell yourself. And so doing that kind of deep work and having explored that on my own, to then be able to sit in a group setting and see over 100 people participate in that and really like firmly believe what the presentations were talking about and getting into, and be like, wow, I have like made so much progress, but of course the work is never done. And it's bringing me to an even newer level, an ability to reflect on it even more. That was incredible. And so was getting to witness other people enter the self-development journey for the first time. And I'm really proud to be in a culture and be a part of environments and movements like that, because I so firmly believe that whether we're talking about building a brand and building a business, or whether we're talking about losing weight, building muscle, it stems back to being more in touch with yourself. Your brand is you. Like, you are literally your ROI. And then when it comes to your physique, obviously that's your physical body, but what's preventing you from getting to where you want to go, a lot of times I'll use language like, oh, it's a choice of like what you're believing and what you're choosing and the actions you're taking every day. And what I'm committed to today and going forward is really saying, it's not just that it's a choice, it's how you see yourself, and it's therefore your identity. And in thinking about that in the context of fitness and nutrition, what we're really trying to say, and I've said like flavors of this on different podcast episodes over the last year, but feel like right now this is kind of the episode that maybe synthesizes it or even says it more effectively and succinctly, is that the real hack, the real trick, the real secret, like all the buzzwords that everybody's trying to use to help you figure out how to get your best body, it does come back to the foundation and like the fundamental mission of the Fitness Fix. Is the block is that you ladies out there think that you need to do everything for everybody else. You become a people pleaser, you become the high achiever at work, and that is an identity. It is a choice, but even like deeper than that, it's an identity. And the identity that we're attaching to that is the thing that is keeping you stuck. And this episode is going to be like me bringing the heat. So maybe turn it up if you're like, yeah, I'm jiving with what she's saying. But I thought about this from the experience of these conversations, as well as from just simply reflecting on my birthday and thinking about like, what was the identity, the preconceived notion that I had for myself of where I could have been or should be right now. And what is that based on? What story is that based on? Coupled with me being in a season that is very busy. And even choosing the word busy, I hesitated right there as I just said that, because I almost said overwhelming. And that was actually something that just kept like showing up for me in this conference that I went to in Nashville. There was a particular presentation talking about this concept of like, when you continue to use the word choice of, oh, this is overwhelming, what we're missing out on is the recognition that, well, sure, it's overwhelming because you maybe are trying something new. And that's what happens when you go on a fat loss journey inside of the Fitness Fix in particular. We are committed to changing the way you see food, to changing your relationship with food, to learning about macros. And for some people, it's a whole new world. And guess what? Of course, it's a whole new world, because if you already knew about it, you wouldn't be in the state that you're in right now where you're looking to create a change. But what happens and where we get stuck and where we feel like we're hitting plateaus is because we convince ourselves, oh, it's just about finding better macros. Oh, it's just about being more consistent. Oh, it's just about, perfecting my workout routine. What if it's actually more about your language? And again, I've done podcast episodes like this. I've talked about like the way you talk to yourself really matters. But this is where I think we're bringing it all together and just very simply saying, what if the reason that's happening to you is because the language you're using is there to keep you stuck? And that's because of the way the brain works. We're wired for safety. And in wiring our brains for safety, we look for patterns, but not just any kind of pattern. We look for patterns of what is familiar. So if you've never approached your food and really learned, let's go back to the identity. If you've never learned what it's like to truly empower yourself, to put yourself first, that is going to feel so fucking uncomfortable. And I had this conversation with a client just the other day because she is on a intense journey of like really looking at her health, looking at inflammation in her body, looking at being able to not just lose body fat, but genuinely like improve her biomarkers, improve her labs because of family history, of genetic concerns, and her just wanting to feel better. And one of the conversations that we were really kind of getting into was just her feeling the overwhelm of like, I totally overhauled her diet. I'm asking her to make a lot of adjustments, and she has a very hectic schedule with her job. So she's doing the work, like literally going to therapy, also having conversations with me, being in touch with us on a daily basis inside of our FYX coaching app, is making choices of actually reducing her hours at her job because she's recognizing, and because I've pointed out to her, this snowball that exists inside of hectic workday, busy workday, high in like intensity in her environment and the type of job that she has, is then spiraling into like certain choices around dinner time that aren't necessarily serving the person that she wants to become. And the word of feeling overwhelmed and trying to juggle all these things started to come up. And that's when I was like, oh, wow, this is such a mirror for two reasons. First, because of the presentation that was given and the conversation that was a result of it inside of this presentation in Nashville, was this word of like, when you tell yourself you're overwhelmed about certain aspects of your business, you're just confirming that you can't do it. And when we peel that back one step and say, well, it's kind of like, no shit, it feels overwhelming because you haven't done this before. And that became a mirror for me because I've been thinking about this so often. I've been saying like, I'm feeling really busy. I'm feeling a little bit of anxiety of just navigating, building a new business. And what I realized was because the FYX has kind of gone through the iteration of like tearing it apart, building it back up, getting the right systems in place, we're always looking for ways to improve that. But in a way, I almost forgot about what it was like when I first started the FYX, and things felt, frankly, a little bit chaotic. And I've needed to remind myself that in starting a new business, it's like, well, of course, you haven't done this yet. So yeah, there are going to be points where you question yourself, but what's the difference between the person who gets to the next level, the person who grows the business, increases the impact, the person who loses the weight and actually keeps it off for good? It's not the macros, you guys. It's not the technicality of checking the boxes, hitting the workouts, going to sleep. It is like on a day-to-day basis and the habits, but the secret sauce to be able to doing that consistently is approaching what feels like overwhelm and realizing that that's actually an opportunity. And when you continually tell yourself, and it's important, this is like the takeaway that I want from this episode, is you owe it to yourself. You have a responsibility to yourself to tell yourself over and over again, I'm not overwhelmed. I am meeting a new experience. I am meeting a new opportunity. And where you seal the deal is reminding yourself that you are capable of doing that. You have resources if you are inside of the FYX. You have people that you can lean on for support, family members. You have, technology resources like using AI to be able to simplify your process of how to go to the grocery store and get your list of groceries and come up with recipes and things. We teach our clients how to integrate those things. We don't shy away from it. You need to take those actions on a daily basis, but what's going to get you to the point where you actually take the action? It's you reminding yourself that every single day is this learning experience. And the only way that you've gotten like translated back to work, even if you're not a business owner listening to this, think about when you started your current job versus how you may feel about it now. If you've had that job for 2, 3, 4, 5+ years, you could be at a point in your career where you could do your current job with your eyes closed. And maybe that's kind of pushing you to be like, oh, I'm ready to look for a new position. But guess what's going to happen? When you go get the new position, you're going to have to learn the new systems, the employees, how they interact, the culture, the expectations of the job. You are going to make mistakes, but what's going to keep you stuck and what's not going to get you to the version of yourself that saw the success in the last role is you continually telling yourself phrases like, I'm overwhelmed or I'm stressed out. Because what happens? The more you tell yourself that you're overwhelmed and stressed out, you're going to keep attracting instances and keep seeing your world as a reality in which that is true. So I've been working through this, and in being candid on these podcast episodes and sharing more about this, I have interrupted my own thoughts multiple times in the last 7 days of when I'm sitting and working on a piece of content for a client and it's like just not coming out the way I want it to. I have started to notice these feelings of frustration come up, and I will stop myself. I'll start monitoring what I'm saying and I'll listen to those thoughts. And then I will rewire my brain by repeating something different, like, you're learning and you do have the capacity for this. And you owe it to yourself to be patient with yourself to be able to figure this out, and know that in 2 months, I'll probably be laughing at the fact that I was seemingly frustrated by something that then, and in 8 weeks time, I have a system around, I have consistency around, I can do with my eyes closed. So what I want you as a listener of this, who is on a journey of pursuing better health, or what I want you as a listener of this, who is a fellow business owner, what I want you to start doing for yourself is just taking that pause and asking yourself, like, where are your thoughts undermining you? Where is that voice in your head that is honestly kind of bitchy? Because it's there, and it's there more than you realize. And if you're the person who's like, I know what I need to do, but I'm just not doing it, I don't understand why I can't get to that next level, I can guarantee you that the frequency which you are having the thoughts that are not serving you is just higher. And so if we can pattern interrupt it and we can recognize it in the moment that it's actually happening, that is the juice, that is the fuel that is going to get you to that next level. And for me personally, whether it's in business and in my own health and wellness journey, that's something that is important to share, because I want people to look at me. I want people to look at Coach Alyssa. I want people to look at our team and recognize that, like, in a lot of ways, yes, just because we're coaches and we professionally and from an education standpoint know more than you, we're also in this with you because, yeah, we're human beings, and that's actually what makes us even more qualified to be able to support you. Because when I have a client with a crazy work schedule coming to me and telling me that, I am a much better coach when I can stop her and I can say, hey, number one, is there anything we can do to adjust your schedule? And number two, is there better language that we can use instead of confirming by using the words like, my work schedule is hectic? And that's something I'm putting this out here on this podcast episode today, that I want to work on that language too. I had this conversation with Oliver, my self-development coach, not too many months ago, maybe like 3 months ago, of committing that to when somebody asks, like, how are you doing? Don't say good, because that's just surface level, but also don't say, oh, I've been really busy. Be more intentional and say something like, when your default is like, I'm really busy, I have a lot going on. It's like, I'm feeling really productive. I'm feeling really energized by the work that I do, because I am. And I love the fact that I have the capacity to handle running multiple businesses, because I do. And when I tell myself that I'm busy, I'm implying and reinforcing to my brain, and therefore the rest of the universe, that things will always be hectic. And I don't want things to always be hectic. I was on a call earlier today where somebody said, like, they've for a long time identified with like thriving in chaos and thriving in stress. If you tell yourself that, you will continue to get stress. And then I'm going to challenge you from a health and fitness perspective, as somebody who has experienced what being in a stress state does to your body. And let me tell you what it looks like. It makes it harder for you to lose weight. It makes you not get as good quality sleep. It makes it that much more tempting for you to want to not choose the foods that will fit your macros and choose the thing that's going to give you the instant gratification. It's going to keep you stuck. So again, it's not actually about the macros themselves. It's not actually about telling yourself, oh, I need to just tweak this approach. A lot of times it's about losing and shedding those old layers of that identity. With my moms out there, it's about recognizing that you owe it to yourself to put yourself first. And if you understand that conceptually and you're nodding your head and you're like, yeah, Krysta, I totally get it, but I'm not living that out. Let's start with the way we're talking to ourselves up here and what you're identifying with. And ultimately, what I then find is, not only are we better coaches, we get our clients better results because we're open and vulnerable about this, and being open and vulnerable about this for ourselves as coaches makes it so much easier to just call somebody out for what we're saying, that what we see them saying, that's like, hey, is that actually serving you? And that's a forever journey. That's a lifetime process, because what happens when you reach the next level, there's going to be something else that may block you from getting to the 2.0 version of you, the 3.0 version of you. And we're just going to keep shedding those layers, and we're going to keep shedding those identities. So as I'm sitting here thinking about strategy and branding and growing a business and teaching other coaches and consultants and brick and mortar business owners of how to grow a business, I'm just constantly seeing this message come back to me that process, the secret behind it is really just about shedding these layers of identity and doing this type of work. But the same is true for your fat loss journey. And when you look at somebody in your life, because we all have this person, and you're like, that just seems effortless for them. Like they haven't had to worry about their weight, or when they commit to a program, they commit to it 100%. They're seeing results faster than me. Like, why is that not happening for me? I know the type A people out there, your default is to try to unpack your choices, the macros, the sleep schedule, the workouts you're doing. But what if the thing you really need is for you to just ask yourself one question? What do I believe about myself to be true? Actually, it's going to be like 2 to 3 questions. I lied. And once you read what you write down, like literally write this down, note on your phone, pen and paper. What do I believe about myself to be true? And then the next question is to read those things. Is that inherently true? And we'll do like a dotted line for this question, because I think you could go either or. Is that being true serving me? Or is that being true preventing you from getting to the next level? And when you see the pattern of the story that's coming up, for me, that's what I want to coach people on, and what I want to make clear, that's what the Fitness Fix is about. I got you covered with the habit tracking. Alyssa and I got you covered with the workouts. We will help you understand why we're choosing the macros that we're choosing. But if there is one character trait of the woman that is successful inside of the Fitness Fix, it is this. She's willing to do that deep shit. And she's willing to get uncomfortable and uncover that and have the conversations that are way more than the surface level of, hey, I'm going out to dinner. Like, what are these things that I should eat? We need those conversations. But this is where I'm excited by the way technology is changing, and the fact that, as I referenced just a few minutes ago, we're pulling in tech like AI to actually help our clients utilize it so that they can ask a chat that I created that has my coaching voice and the Fitness Fix philosophies and principles injected into it. Hey, what should I eat for dinner? I had a client joke to me last week, like, hey, you shared this tool with us. Are you trying to like work yourself out of a job? Absolutely not. And here's why. Being able to automate some of the processes of asking those types of more surface level questions, the tactical questions, frees me up to have deeper, more meaningful, the gritty conversations with our clients, like what I'm covering inside of this podcast episode. So if you are a current client of ours, listen to this and then come back to me and tell me, when you do that exercise, what are the things and the stories that you're telling yourself? Are they true? And are they maybe potentially blocking you from getting to that next level inside of your fat loss journey, and therefore you as a human being? And if you're not a current client and you're like, oh, I had a misconception over the role that a nutrition coach could be playing in my life. Or maybe you've convinced yourself like, yeah, I don't really need this because like I kind of know how to do macros, or I kind of generally believe that I know how to eat healthy, even though we should probably unpack that. Because if you think you're eating healthy, but you don't like how you look, there is more of the tangible to that too. Come talk to me, because that's the type of person that we want inside of our community. We want people who are committed to being the highest versions of themselves. We just happen to be doing that through your health and wellness. And for my business owners out there, if you're still stuck on this concept of, I need to find like the best hooks and the best tools and find the viral, trending audios to be able to show up on social media, and I need the perfect freebie to be able to call in more clients, I want you to come talk to me too, because yes, I can give you that and I can show you what has worked for the Fitness Fix, but what I can promise you is going to be the game changer, and what we really provide inside of the Clarity Collective is you getting really clear about who you are, and then connecting that to how we are going to tell that story online to bring in the people that are supposed to be a part of your community too. So like I said, keeping this one short, gotta run. And with that, as always, from wherever you're listening, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you guys next week.